This 500 pages thick tome by Nord Games holds a bunch of spectacular settlements in the form of towns, fortresses, cities, villages, and more. And my players in the middle of their campaign decided to make a U-turn for the nearest city because they need supplies, they need reinforcements, and they need a proper rest. And me, being totally underprepared, told them, sure, let's take that up in the next session. So let's use the system in this book to create a spectacular city for my players to explore. Hi there fellow Nord Games fans, my name is Mr. Tarask and this is your go-to YouTube channel for everything Nord Games. If you do not know what Spectacular Settlements is, I have a review of it on my channel. I will link it somewhere around here. You can click it, you can watch it, whatever, you can buy it for yourself. But basically, it is a book for creating or using spectacular settlements. There are a bunch of pre-generated ones in there, and there is a system to use to build your own. So without further ado, click the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and let's build a city. So of course I'm going to use the PDF for this because I'm not going to sit around carrying a 500 pages thick tome for an entire video, because although I have a lot of muscles, I am not that strong. Spectacular settlements, just very briefly, it has a bunch of spectacular settlements in the form of, as you can see, trading posts, villages, towns, cities, capitals, fortresses. It has a bunch of interesting NPCs, encounters, rumors, all that stuff to build really memorable stuff. And every section, I'm going to go to page 137 because that's a city section. Every section has its own system for randomly determining what kind of city you end up with. Now, there's a little disclaimer. I like to use these systems, and I've reviewed this book, but I've never really used the systems on my channel. I got a lot of people asking me like, hey, how does this system work and what you get if you roll it randomly? And I just want to show you what options you have. Now, there's a little thing I want to say about that. It is not because you are randomly rolling for stuff that you literally have to go for everything you roll for. For me personally, this kind of stuff is created to get your creative juices flowing. So I often use this to help me get into the vibe of creating something, and that is why I think it's really cool and a really neat system. Now, Nord Games has really thought about almost everything. Everything is with steps and all that stuff, but I'm not going to write anything down for my city. I'm just going to build a city, and I'm going to call it Crematorium. My city is going to be Crematorium, and my players are going to end up there. And this system, we're just going to dive in, right? Basic information. We're just going to roll for the origin of my city, Crematorium, right? The origin, how was it started, and to get a general idea, and then we'll just try to improvise on how we fill that in for ourselves. By the way, if you type into Google roll 1d10 or roll 1d20 or roll whatever, you get this awesome dice roller within Google. Don't have to need to install anything. Just within Google, you can just press the die you need and it rolls right here. So if I press a d20, boom, it rolls a d20. Top tip for anybody looking for a neat little dice roller on their phone or on their computer when they're playing online or whatever. So the origin is a d10, right? I've rolled a 4 on, so it is a Sorry, I'm going to have to read it here. Repurposed history. The city was founded and built on top of ancient ruins. Standing ruins might have been left as statues and tributes to the past, but more often they have either been used or still stable or incorporated into new structures. Okay, that's a cool thing, right? Right there. So there's a bunch of ruins which have statues, and it's kind of like these cities in the real world where there's like a bunch of ruins and they start building buildings on top of them and using part of the ruins and part of the old buildings, and in order to make like one wall of a new building is like this old section, and they try to keep it intact. So that's basically what happens for Crematorium. It is built on like this lost world. There was this city before, and then thousands of years later, there's a new city that they built on top of that, which is now Crematorium. So the priority of the city. Let's see what the priority of the city is, which is a d6 roll actually. Just going to go through this quickly. It is a 5. Production. This settlement was built around producing a particular good or a resource. This could be raw materials like crops or mining ore, but could also be the manufacture of a certain product or products. You can first roll on the outside the city table, roll a d10. For your first roll on the outside the city table, roll a d10, re-rolling any result from 1 to 4. So we kind of need to remember that, like, our city is more of a production city. You can have a control city that sits on a strategic point. You can have a city that's more about faith and everything, but this one is really a production. People come here in order to get a certain good. We still don't really know what it is. We can fill it in for ourselves, but we don't really know what it is or whatever. The D10 roll is a 9, so it is an ancient city. The city is older than living and possibly even recorded memory, which is really cool. So Crematorium is the city that already sits on ruins that were already freaking old, but the city is so freaking old, nobody remembers how old it is. So the previous city before Crematorium is even older. So that's really weird, but also really cool. So if your players like inquire about the history of the city, people will be like, yeah, what history? The first history or the second history? Might be even a thing, like the first history and the second history, like the Old Testament and the New Testament. Let's roll for the city size. It wouldn't make any sense if it's really small, right? So I'm going to roll the d20 anyway. It's going to be a 12. Medium-sized structures in the city are able to support around 24,000 people. That's a good number of people, I think. I don't really have any idea about that. But look at the artwork, by the way. Cool. You just fill it in with all these with all this stuff. I really like it. Outside the city. What happens outside the city? I can ignore any roll from 1 to 4. So I can roll a d20 again, probably something like that. I don't know. I didn't read it properly. But outside the city, I got an 11, which is barrows, an area devoted to burial sites. My city is called Crematorium, and I mean, dude. And my city is, by the way, medium, so I can roll a bunch of times. I can roll 3 times. So there is a entire section around burial sites. There is an entire section. Let's do it again. There is something outside the city. Noteworthy is farming. There's a lot of farming outside of the city, which makes sense with the production and everything. And then there is I can roll an 11 again. So I'm gonna ignore that, and then there is it's a 6. More farming. Gonna ignore that. Just gonna ignore that. That's the thing with these systems, right? You can just ignore whatever. Event grounds, standard grounds for games, duels, ceremonies, and other events. So this is kind of starting to remind me of like cities like, I don't know, like Rome or whatever, where you have these ruins and they built a city around it, and there are these burial sites from long past times, and there are these grounds where they hold these events like duels, and where events were held in a previous age, and now they hold other events there, but they kind of keep that intact. This kind of starts to remind me of that, which means that this system we're building this city from actually makes sense. So Crematorium makes sense. Stewardship. A city must be managed well to thrive. This includes collecting taxes, maintaining streets, and blah, 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 blah. So, okay, yeah. Okay, so I have to roll a d20 for this. I'm going in totally blind, by the way. I've created a village with this system, but not yet a city. So this is a city. I've rolled a 20. Disciplined. The city's fundamental elements are firmly in hand, providing what it needs to perform at peak functionality. There is little to no room for improvement, wherever whoever is managing things is doing so expertly. Wow. You get +5 to general condition, population wealth, and +8 to law enforcement. I should jot this down, but I don't have pen and paper, so I'm going to try to kind of remember that. Again, it's a system, and it needs to be interpreted the way you want to interpret it for your game. So Crematrium is a city built on old foundations. It's being managed to the bones, and it is completely thriving, and it has these event grounds and burial sites, and it has production, and people come here for like a certain production type. It is an amazing city. General condition. I don't know what that means. Is the overall state of the city. Let's just roll a d20 on that. That's a d20, right? Yeah, that's an 8. The general condition of the city is decent. The city is passable while not offensive to the senses or of one that is well traveled. It could still be off-putting to those with lofty expectations. Structures may not be aesthetically pleasing, but are generally functional. So that it could be like maybe the people who are in charge are more focusing on getting everything to actually work, and they're less focusing how stuff actually looks, which makes sense because they're building on old foundations, and they're more like, it's kind of might be a weird mixture between modern buildings and really old buildings, and it might be like this hybrid kind of city that looks really ugly, and but it works. It just works, right? And the environment the city is in is a D10 roll, which is a 1. It is a coastal, and the city is near a large body of water, such as a lake. That's what I wasn't imagining coastal at all for Crematrium. I was imagining a big city in the middle of I don't know where, maybe some mountains or whatever, and there was this everything is going on, but I wasn't imagining coastal, and that's why I like this rolling table. I just rolled for coastal. Boom. There's a lot of fishing probably. It is a freaking coastal town. The fortification of the city is heavily fortified. Makes sense, right? It is heavily. The city is surrounded by a heavy wall of wood or stone. Let's make it stone, with several watchtowers built along the length. The gate is double thickness, and the reinforcement metal bands. There are additional watchtowers built at various points throughout. I can really see like this reinforcements with walls and towers, but it doesn't have like any. It isn't nicely built. There's just, we need a tower over there because it's a strategic point, and it just put a tower over there and not think about how it looks. It's not like when you play Age of Empires 2 and you try to build like this really cool city and you might like to build like really nice walls. No, it's just like, I'm playing a game online. I just put everything in my thing and just try to attack. That's basically what this city is. So if you're getting bored, you know how the system works, but let's just keep building Crematrium. If a vendor wishes to set up a stall on the market square, how do they go about finding a space? We don't need to go that deep into it, right? For me, does the city allow merchants to sell outside the city itself? You can see if you really want to dig deep into your city and even how a freaking vendor wants to set up a freaking stall on the market. If you want to go that far for Dungeons and Dragons for your cities, you can go that far. But for me, I never go that far. I leave that up for improvisation. Is the market square tight, ample, spacious? I'm gonna say it's spacious. Just gonna say it's spacious. Underground passages. Look at this artwork. Underground passages. Wow. Let's roll a d20 on that. Let's just do it. Let's say 6. Or just none. There are no significant passages underneath the city, as we know of. I'm just gonna roll with that. Officially, there are none. Maybe the people from the first age had underground passages that only a few mages know about. Look, you see? It's to get your creative juices flowing. There are no passages. That doesn't mean there are no passages. That means there's maybe one mage who knows about a freaking passage. The community. What is the community like? This is only step 2, right? We're just going to keep creating, gonna keep doing this. I like doing it, and I just like doing it for you guys, so I can actually show you how many thoughts that Nord Games put into this kind of stuff. Population density of the city would only make sense if it's at least something, which is a 15. It's a dense. There are a large amount of people living in the city. There are few, if any, vacant buildings. In high traffic areas, one generally has elbow room, but not much more. +1 to night activity roll. So that's how the system actually adds to the other random table. So because it is dense, there is of course more night activity, which only makes sense, right? As a settlement, cities grow, so does the makeup of its population. A village with only a few sort residents may well be entitled monthly. Just gonna ignore that. Population wealth. Oh, that's interesting. That's actually interesting, because let's roll for it and try to have it make sense. That's how you do it. You roll for it and then you try to have it make sense. I got a 14 again. Average. Most of the city's populations have enough to live a modest life. Those without are a minority. So there's not a lot of people who don't have a lot of money, who don't have enough money. There's not a lot of rich people. There's just basically an average income per family in this city, which makes sense, considering that it is being managed very well according to a previous roll. So maybe there is a political system of like social security or whatever, like here in Belgium. I mean, people are not allowed to be poor, but they're also not allowed to be rich. Maybe they tax the rich a bit more and they tax the poor a bit less. It's all making sense if you try to make it make sense. Don't use a random rolling table to just put random stuff on a piece of paper. Use it to actually have it make sense. Visitor traffic, another interesting one, which is only a 7. Crowds. A noticeable amount of people come through the city on a regular basis. Okay. Which also increases to night activity, which is down here. Night activity. Let's just roll for night activity, because maybe your players want to go at night, I don't know, kill a freaking assassin or whatever. And I already have a, what was it? A +1 and then again a +5 to night activity, or a plus, sorry, a plus, I think it was a +2 and a +1. So let's make it a +3 to night activity. I've rolled a 7, which makes it a 10. Which is basically slow. Almost everything is closed except for taverns, which may be open until early morning, and inns, which stay open permanently. If the city has a gate, it is closed, but guards will generally be ready to open it if needed. Okay, fine. It's a kind of city that sleeps. People are like, during the day we work and during the night we sleep, and then there's a bunch of inns with a bunch of drunk people getting their stuff on. Anyway, what is the leadership like? We already, that's a D100. I cannot roll a D100 with this, so I need to, oh, I can do it manually. Okay, which I've rolled a freaking 100. Like syndicalist. The members of the city take turns as a sort of executive officer for the week. Wow, that's special. I don't even know what I wanna. Law enforcement. 20. That's a 10. No, sorry, it's 12. Oh, robust city watch. Run by a captain and 2 sergeants, the watch are able to place extra support at key points, which again makes sense. For some reason, this is all making sense. Gramatrium is a ugly city, but it works really well. It is built on a very old foundation of a first age. It is now a very thriving city in a second age. At night, there isn't a lot of activity, but there's still like inns and everything is open, but during the day, it's fairly crowded. People come in and out, and it is based on production more than it is based on farming or whatever. And it has, of course, burial grounds from ages past and everything. And it has very good fortification, which makes sense that it is a robust city watch. So it all makes sense that there is a city watch that actually uses By the way, they have like these little boxes here with extra information just to help you put this all into your city. So crematorium is making sense, and I like it because I'm going in totally blind. I could have well ended up with a city that didn't make any sense at all, but Nord Games put a lot of thought in this. Again, I like it. General crime. Ooh, crime. Crime. Is there a lot of crime in crematorium? Common. Most are used to hearing about some sort of trouble every day or two. Everyone, it's just, there's crime. It's like Brussels. I know. Ooh, but is there organized crime? Like the mob and everything. 13. I've rolled a 13. Enough incidents have occurred that most folk don't have trouble believing there is an organized criminal element to the city. Makes sense in a city of this size, in a city of this thing. There are districts. We can roll for a number of districts. We can roll a d20 to see how many districts. I'm not like for my cities, I never do districts that much. And I also always see them pop up in books, but I don't really use them. I rolled on a d20, which was a 13. So there should be 4 districts, but let's just roll for 2 districts, right? District types. Wow, this is just going so freaking deep. There are so many districts. I'm going to roll a d12. Let's see. Let's say there's a general city and then there's 2 districts, like really set apart. The first one being craft. The district has a focus on the creation of different goods, which makes sense with the first roll where it is a production-based city. So they have something. I don't know yet what they have, but they have something that people want. Maybe it's a special kind of beer. Let's say it's a blueberry beer. Blueberry battlefield beer. That's, by the way, a real item in my games. It's blueberry battlefield beer, and it's brewed at the blueberry battlefield beer bar. And yeah, let's say that's the thing in crematorium. So that's the first one. And the second one being Scholar District. This district has a focus on education and the pursuit of knowledge. Okay, Nord Games, I don't know if you're hacking my computer or my rolling thing, but it is actually making so much sense right now. Because it is built on foundations of an ancient city. It actually makes sense that there is a section for scholars to actually study that stuff, to actually study history, study who were the people who lived here before us. That's just being really making a lot of sense. I'm not gonna. You can see, you can go. What is the condition of the districts? What is the history of each district? What is the crime in each district? Sorry, you can split everything up in pieces as much as you want. Some terms of the districts, whatever, individual districts, arcana districts. So here are the districts. You can even roll like for the, let's say the craft district, we can roll for that. There is a smithy there, a carpenter, a general store, a tailor, a magic shop, armor, books, clothing, blah, 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 blah. So we can add additional locations to it. So let's add 1 additional location to it just for the heck of it. Let's add a textile production shop. There's also a textile production shop, so if you players need cloth or anything. Dogs district, it has like you can like really detailed fill this in and set up front what is there and what is not there. I personally don't like to do that. I personally like to create a general idea of a city and leave everything open because I want to be able to say yes to my players. That doesn't mean that if you write all this stuff down, you can't do that. You can write everything down, this is set, but still if your players are like, hey, is there a dude who cuts freaking toenails in the city? You as a dungeon master, probably, yes, there is Oris the Orc, who has like this big of a scissors who cuts toenails. I'm making that up on the fly. I know, that's the way my brain works for some reason. All of these districts, and it's just upper class district, location details for the magic shop. Location details for a Oh my god, this just keeps freaking going. The quality of the magic shop. Let's just say there is a magic shop in the city. Let's just do this, right? What is the specialization of the magic shop? My phone just died on me for some reason. No, it's working. It's working. That's the wrong die. It's a D6. The use for the magic shop is jewelry. It's magic jewelry. And they provide services. All kinds of services. How many hired help do they have even? This just keeps going, right? It's D12. They have a team. The hired help is a team of individuals who work together, just like a normal shop, right? Roll on the table below for any district's additional locations that are deemed notable. Wow, that's cool. So let's say this magic shop is notable. We're just going to roll a 3. Excellent offerings. Whatever product or service the location offers, it's good enough to draw notice. Right? What is the quality of it? What is the quality of our magic shop? What is the quality of our magic shop? The quality of our magic shop is, I mean, the goods are of good quality, of course. It is fine. The location is an exceptional version of what typically expected. So you go into this jewelry shop and you're like, wow, everything is shining and everything is cool. Everything is set up really nicely and the products are really good. And there's a team of people helping you. Again, all making sense. And they do this for the place of worship, for every freaking thing. There are even guilds. You can roll for, are there guilds? Yes. What kinds of guilds are there? Noteworthy officials. You can go so freaking deep into it. It's just crazy. And then they go into cities, pre-generated cities you can actually use in your game, and that's the end of the system for using it. So I don't go to the upper level of depth for building my city, but what we've ended up with is actually really great. We've ended up with Crematorium, which is a city built on old foundations of a lost age, and they've built a new city on top of those foundations using some of the walls and some of the structures from those past foundations to build a new city. There's a scholar district actually learning and studying old books and whatever and stone cunning stuff to see what happened in the lost age. There is a good amount of people going in and out of the city because there's a lot of production going on. There is some nightlife, not a lot of nightlife. It is really well fortified, but it doesn't look beautiful. It does what it needs to do, but it doesn't look beautiful. Because they don't spend money in making it look beautiful, because it is really well maintained by the people who are in charge. People who are in charge actually do a really good job by keeping everybody in like a steady income kind of thing, where the rich get taxed more and the poor get taxed less, and there is the social security system. They make sure that everybody has the right amount of money to actually live. There is a gate. There are people there is like a guard section who can send guards there and set fortifies there. It all makes sense, and now you have a basic idea of what Crematorium is and how it works, and you can send your players to a city that I can send my players to a city that I have a general idea of. I know there's a magic shop. I know there is a marketplace. I know there is like a textile shop, like that's really famous. I have a general idea of what is going on in and around Crematorium, like these old burial sites and farming and everything, so my players can get like this flavor before they even enter the city, which means that from there on I can improvise and I can say yes to my players if they ask, is there this, or is there that, how does this work, is there a guard section here? I can say yes, there are a bunch of people who are actually in charge of setting fortifications and all that stuff, and that all comes from just rolling a bunch of random stuff on these random rolling tables on Spectacular Settlements. You can, of course, do all that stuff without using a system like this, but then you forget about some certain things, right? And you can still improvise when your players ask something, but you've I tend to like forget about thinking about how it is governed or how the fortifications work. With this system, with this random rolling table system, you cover all the bases and your players actually get the flavor of your city, which I'm going to use in my game. If you like this kind of videos where I go over systems, I have like a gazillion systems on my shelf right there, and I want to show them all to you if you are interested. Until next video, bye bye.